Game number one is getting underway. These guys are ready to fight and find out who's getting a win on the board. Neither of these guys can afford a loss. SuperJJ is looking to put himself in a solid position in that playoff picture, and RDU needs to start racking up wins.
So Nathan, do you get nervous for the big matches?
You know, I used to. Honestly, when I was younger and competing a lot in Magic, like I remember my first Pro Tour, I was, I think, 16 or 17 years old, and it was tough for me. Like I remember sitting down across the player from a guy who was from Japan, and I remember literally shaking, holding my cards in my hand, going, "Oh my gosh, this is the real thing."
Yeah, I get nervous beforehand, but not once the event starts. It's like, you know, game mode gets engaged. Like you said, my first Pro Tour ever for Magic was the best night's sleep I've ever gotten before a tournament in my life.
I cannot say the same about that one. SuperJJ, this is an interesting build so far from him. 2 duplicates and a Mad Scientist in this build, along with a Flame Strike. Is this sort of a nod to what Era has been playing a little bit lately?
This looks a lot like an Era kind of mage deck here, but whichever flavor of mage this is, he cannot be happy with this opening hand.
Yeah, it's a little bit weak. You know, always happy to see a Mad Scientist, and I think a lot of it depends on what his secrets are behind this. You know, if he's got mirror entities in here, I think he's happy with that. He can set a duplicate and ensure that he's getting a mirror entity out of this. But, you know, again, looking at his hand, not a lot of action here.
No, not a lot of action at all. This does look like the Era deck with that Frost Nova draw. If this is, the secrets that he has is he has duplicates and ice blocks, and that's it.
Yep. So we're going to have to find out exactly what it is as this game keeps rolling on. Duplicate getting set, and sort of something that RDU, I think, is fearing here is that this could be mirror entity. Right now, his start doesn't tell you a whole lot.
Yeah, he's just going to play the Shade of Naxxramas anyway, and then, you know, the jig is up here, so this actually tells you more likely what form of mage this is, since, you know, a mirror entity didn't get triggered there, because almost all the aggressive versions of the deck have mirror entity.
Yeah, but now at this point, is RDU thinking this is freeze mage? Does he think this is duplicate?
Well, I mean, as long as RDU's been playing some Hearthstone lately, you know, he's going to assume maybe freeze mage, but everyone's been playing competitive lately knows that, you know, it's not just freeze mage now. There's so many variations that have become popular, not just in HPL, but, you know, even on the ladder and in other tournaments.
Yeah, it is something to consider. I mean, how do you actually play this game out? You know, a lot of players I think are going to silence in this spot and try to pick off this secret, or maybe even silence the card draw. Those aren't necessarily appealing plays to me, because if he thinks this is freeze mage, killing a Doomsayer is super important.
Yeah, I think I would silence the Mad Scientist here and then just pick off the Acolyte of Pain and just, you know, hope that, you know, he only has 4 cards left in his hand, so you want to deny him card draws. If he doesn't do something to draw cards this turn or really, you know, get ahead, then you're not exactly doing a whole lot. But again, you don't play around duplicate this way. Giving him the Acolyte of Pains is, you know, a lot worse for you than giving him more Mad Scientists.
Yeah, and now that he's seen duplicate, what exactly does he think this build is?
Yeah, you have to believe it's something like Value Mage or Flood Mage, you know, one of the Era-like decks, you know.
I like the Era-like decks.
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan.
They're so fun.
That's just an Era in a nutshell with Hearthstone. He's just fun. Yeah.
So SuperJJ going to take his time here, wants to keep building his hand. And normally, I think this matchup against Druid isn't the most fantastic matchup in the world, but his hand is actually shaping up pretty nicely here. He's got a couple ways to pick off the next few threats, and then it looks like he's getting to a pretty clean Flame Strike turn.
Yeah, Era actually said that about his deck. You know, he's like, you know, you normally, when you're playing Freeze Mage, you traditionally have bad matchups with Druid and like Control Warrior, decks like that, but his changes to the decks, he's shorn up those, and he's gone as far as saying that his matchup against, you know, Control Warrior is actually really, really good.
Yeah, anytime you're playing the Grinder Mage, a lot of times your goal is just to have so many threats that they can't handle them, and Duplicate is a catalyst to that point.
Yeah, I think that's what SuperJJ did with this pick here is, you know, he knew that RDU has been favoring a lot of Warrior lately, so he's trying to pick off that strategy.
Yeah, but now at the same time, is he comfortable playing a non-combo deck in this spot? I mean, this is a much more control-centered build.
It's a control-centered build, but it plays like a combo deck because you have to know like when you can duplicate, what you can duplicate in certain matchups, because in certain matchups you can't not duplicate a Ragnaros or something like that. It's like the only way you're going to be able to win. So you have to kind of play your deck out like that. Now, RDU, he sets up a Emperor Thoros on here, and it's going to be a good one. Look at that hand.
Yeah, anytime that you can get 6 mana off an Emperor Thoros and actually have threats back behind it, it's a pretty darn good turn, especially when you're looking at such a small board like this. You know that there's not a lot of pressure on you. So even if this gets answered, it's not the biggest deal in the world because you don't have damage crashing in.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like SuperJJ has a clock on you or anything. RDU hasn't had a chance to play this Mind Control tech yet. You know, he's going to look for any spot he can just to get it on the board because it doesn't have a ton of value in this matchup.
And SuperJJ, he's being really, really careful with keeping damage off the board as much as possible. I actually don't mind this strategy because I feel like he's trying to do is just keep himself out of a very dangerous Force Nature Savage Roar spot and knows that his hand is good enough to navigate through that situation. He's not necessarily concerned with card advantage right now.
Well, yeah, that's the problem with the Druid matchup. Not only do they match up well against you, they have so many different ways of attacking your life total that it's hard for you to always rely on things like Ice Block correctly because, you know, you're going to take so much damage every single turn from them. You can't keep your life total high enough to ever, you know, get a turn where you're not at like 1 with your Ice Block.
Yeah, and this Sylvanas right now is doing a ton of work. The fact that Keeper of the Grove was used, SuperJJ is able to massively punish RDU just for making a 5-10.
Yeah, it's a little weird sometimes when you're the Druid in either one of these matchups, you know, if it's something like Freeze Mage or the other ones. Keeper of the Grove, so much value. You know, Doomsayer, and then in this matchup, taking care of Sylvanas, but as we saw, he did use it a little early, and SuperJJ is going to get some value off of it.
Yeah, I mean, value indeed. He's either stealing a 5-5 taunt or a Sludge Belcher.
Yeah, both of these he'd be perfectly fine duplicating as well.
Yep. It looks like he wants to be a little bit more patient with this Sylvanas, though, and try to get more value out of it. I don't mind this either.
He's going to make sure that he gets the Ancient of War if it happens.
Yeah, sort of the problem I see with this play, though, is that this does give an opportunity to RDU to actually draw Keeper of the Grove right here. But that's a risk I think he's fine taking right now, considering that he's already used a Keeper of the Grove, and he's got, what, 19 cards left in his deck?
Also, SuperJJ's in a pretty good spot here as well. He doesn't feel, you know, super threatened with this board position.
Yeah, even if Keeper of the Grove does happen, now there's 2 Keepers out of the way, and you're looking at being in a spot where you can still deal 5 damage to this Ancient of War and keep going afterwards. You know, once 2 Keepers of the Grove are gone, your window's basically open to get all the value you want from minions that otherwise need to be silenced.
Yeah, and now you're seeing one of the weird spots of this deck is how you play with cards like Duplicate. You know, you have to be careful with them. You know, you can't just duplicate just anything in every matchup. You know, you have to get the specific minions that are important for that matchup. You know, duplicating a Sylvanas' matchup, unbelievable. Duplicating Ragnaros, unbelievable. Duplicating an Acolyte of Pain, not the greatest.
Duplicating Unstable Goal.
Yeah. And this mind control tech almost going to give. It's getting close to giving RDU value, but I don't think he can sit around and wait for that.
I totally agree with you. I think at this point he's just got to work on trying to get the worst steal possible from Sylvanas, because clearly he's got his sights set on his turn if he's playing the mind control tech first.
Yeah, you'll probably see him do something like play the mind control tech and the piloted shredder, maybe even the big game winner, or you might just get these Force of Nature tokens into play.
I don't mind this either.
I like that play a lot.
I totally agree with you. I think this is superior to his other options, because if SuperJJ steals a Treant in this spot, you're looking at an almost completely useless steal.
Now, are they Treants or are they actually Ints?
Well, they say Treants, I'm pretty sure.
But I think they're just like, I just want to call them Ints.
Yeah, but flavor-wise.
Okay, yeah. But flavor-wise, all right.
The last guy I expected to be concerned about flavor, Tannin Grace.
Hey, man, I like my Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, perfect steal for RDU. Very happy to see that one. Squeezes in 4 extra points of damage, and suddenly SuperJJ looking at a spot and thinking to himself, did I get a little too greedy with this Sylvanas?
Yeah, I think he might have gotten a little too greedy with that Sylvanas, but it had to be that kind of situation. But he gets the Force of Nature out of RDU's hand, and not a ton of value is given to RDU. So SuperJJ thinking about getting really aggressive here.
If he plays this Ragnaros, if he plays the Alexstrasza, there's a potential for this game to start swinging completely out of control.
Yeah, because he has, like, Frost Nova, to back this up, and then he has a Fireball, which he's already used one of.
That's really the big difference here, I think, with his hand, is that because he's got Frost Nova and Flame Strike, he's able to buy himself enough time. That's the real point behind this. If he didn't have these board sweeps, I think there's almost no way he even considers his Alexstrasza right now.
Yeah, but he's just going to anti-Keelbot and Acolyte of Pain, digging into his deck. He's looking for an Emperor here. That's what he really, really needs. Yeah,
or really just any other massive threat to add behind this. Like a Ragnaros will get immediate value. Sylvanas gets, Alexstrasza, I keep calling it every other legendary. Alexstrasza also gets immediate value, but it's not quite the same. The 11 damage you get to the dome from it, I don't think it's really at all what he's looking for.
Well, this is quite the legendary deck. I mean, there's going to be a ton of them there. It has Alexstrasza, it has Ragnaros, it has Sylvanas. Usually it's the Druid deck you see something like that coming out of.
Yeah.
These big giant minions for tons of mana. Yeah. You don't normally see that from mage decks all the time.
Yeah, it's not even to say that they're not in RDU's deck, but given that he has mind control tech in here, I kind of expect there to be a little bit more tech slots than there are just legendaries.
Yeah, this is one of the turns where if he wants to, Frost Nova, just a great card.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I didn't mind the Alexstrasza last turn. I still don't mind it this turn either, but this turn it looks a little bit more scary.
Yeah, well, he's going to be doing something like ping his Acolyte of Pain here to draw a card and then, go from there. But I have a feeling you're going to see, either Explosive Sheeps or, Frost Novas, maybe even both, setting up a turn where he can He's just trying to get tempo back from RDU. And the thing is, these Frost Novas, they're not necessarily there to stall RDU, though they do a good job of it. They're there to make him overcommit.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're there for. It's such an interesting card to be seeing in that spot because he'll continue to build board tension with stuff like Explosive Sheeps. And RDU has to look at that and go, do I push through these? Do I just wait? Like, he's either getting extra value out of his Frost Novas because his opponent's not doing anything, or he's getting extra value because they're pushing right into damage.
Yeah, and if this is Era's list, which, you know, we believe it is, there's no Doomsayer in the deck.
Right.
So there's no Doomsayer Frost Nova combo.
So SuperJJ doesn't even play the Mad Scientist here. And I guess it's because he has this Explosive Sheep out.
He's also out of secrets, I believe.
Yeah, at that point...
He has an Ice Block in play, and he's already used a Duplicate, and they're both in his hand, so it's just a 2-2 here, and it's also because he has the Explosive Sheep out.
Yeah, he's going to get a little bit punished here, too. Lotheb, great timing for RDU. You know, the control of holding onto this until a post-Frost Nova turn. He knows that SuperJJ's looking for a turn just like this one and follow up with Flame Strike. Now, what on earth does he do?
Yeah, usually in these matchups, when you're the Freeze Mage player, you use your most expensive freeze effects. Like, you use Blizzard before you use Frost Nova because of cards like Lotheb. SuperJJ doesn't have that option in this matchup.
It's punishing him right here. This looked from like a great game into suddenly an extremely tough spot. And this is kind of the situation that I wanted him to avoid. You know, if he's playing something a little bit more combo centric, he's looking to actually push and end the game. With this deck, he actually has to extend it as long as possible.
There's a couple things SuperJJ can do. He can Alex Draws this turn onto RDU, you know, and start to make RDU a little scared, because RDU cannot leave Alex Draws in play if he's at 15, 16, or 17. SuperJJ could also just create a bunch of board tension with Acolyte of Pain, maybe even draw a card, Explosive Sheep, Mad Scientist, which it looks like he might do, and just try to value out from this turn forward. He's going to probably draw an extra card here as well.
Now, I'm curious how this turn is going to pan out, though, because this Ice Block's getting popped right here. Like, there's no way to actually prevent that from happening.
Yeah, and RDU can even, if he uses his hero power, he can get him down to very low life totals here. That'll be, as long as SuperJJ isn't at 1, he feels like he has a pretty easy chance to win this game, because if you get them to 1, then the hero power checks them every single turn.
Yep. So Savage Roar's going to come in first.
Yeah, this might be able to get him to 1. I haven't done the math on this one yet.
14, 15, 16, 17, and then just any of the strikes from the other ones. So this turn is, I mean, this is exactly what SuperJJ wanted to avoid, was this kind of scenario. So RDU didn't have to actually use Savage Roar to force the Ice Block this turn. But again, the big deal is that he wants him at 1 so that if his board gets frozen, he can just hero power.
Yeah, he didn't need to do more damage this turn. He needed to do a specific number of damage and a certain amount of tax.
Yeah.
He needed the right algorithm.
So he's actually clearing some of this board spot here.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's got a bunch of free attacks. You might as well.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he's second-guessing the Savage Roar at this point. That would be sort of weird to me. Like, the whole point of the Savage Roar was to get him to 1. Yep, extra hero power actually makes a big difference here. I'm going to be inspired when this next set comes out.
Oh, I see what you did there. That was a good one.
Ice Block gets forced from SuperJJ, and not enough mana to play pretty much everything that he wants to this turn. I mean, ideally, he gets an Alex Straza back behind this, but now that some of this board has been left here, he actually still has a recovery here with the Flame Strike and Ice Block.
Yeah, I was going to say, he could Flame Strike and Ice Block this turn, and then he could Alex Draws at the turn after that and hope it's going to be good enough.
Drop for SuperJJ on that Shredder.
Oh yeah, this is great. He's even going to get an extra card out of this as well.
Now, what more could you ask for? And he's got to Ice Block here, no question about it. So RDU is able to pop this Ice Block, but then Alex Strauss is going to bring it back to 15. And again, he's seen a Force of Nature, and he's also seen a Savage Roar. Like, how comfortable does he feel now?
Well, RDU is going to be able to make a pretty big board state here.
And he's even going to have the Big Game Hunter to check that Alex Straza.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't add it here for extra pressure, which I don't think he will. You know they have Alex Straza in their list, and he's held on to it for this long. You have to believe he's going to hold on to it for a little bit longer.
Yep. So Sylvanas actually does a pretty darn good job of checking the Alex Straza as well. So SuperJJ, it's just one more thing he's got to think about. Pick up your card first, see if there's anything you can do. I just don't think there is. I mean, you can't play the Sludge Belcher. You check to Lethal Layer. Like, I mean, I guess you could Sludge Belcher and Frostbolt.
Yeah, if you Sludge Belcher and Frostbolt, he needs some form of charge. But does that put you in a better situation than just putting an Alex Straza into play?
I don't think it does. And
yeah, he has a Big Game Hunter to check his own Alex Straza if it gets stolen from him.
Yep.
I like the cycling of the Wrath here.
Yeah, I would dump it too. He just needs anything he can get at this point. Ooh, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's so darn close.
Yeah, just a little short.
Oh, he's going to drop low here, but SuperJJ has a Flame Strike behind this, so he's actually, if RDU doesn't draw Force of Nature here, or Ragnaros, or whatever it's going to be, SuperJJ actually, I think, has got a pretty big advantage.
Yeah, he's got a great advantage here. This it's going to be a really, oh, he even picked up Illuminator. That is huge. Now, he can't do, like, Flame Strike Illuminator plus a Secret here, and you have to believe he's going to Flame Strike.
Yeah, I like Flame Strike Duplicate.
Yeah, you might as well use the mana to get the Secret into play as soon as possible. And then you could, you know, Illuminator plus Sludge Belcher next turn. That seems great.
Yeah, if he lives through the next turn, I think he's got a major advantage.
Yeah, this looks exactly like Era's list, you know, maybe even down to the last card.
Taking his time and thinking through everything, though. There are other possibilities here as well, but can you pass up this Flame Strike?
Pretty hard.
What a tough choice. Yeah, I don't see passing it up. And so the big difference here is Illuminator or Duplicate.
I think you just play the Duplicate. I don't think you want to put the Illuminator in play in case something like, you know, Swipe is in RDU's hand. You don't want to, you know, risk it getting killed since it's usually one of the only ways he can gain life left in his deck.
But at the same time, you know, maybe he's thinking if he gets a swipe out of RDU's hand, he's gold.
It's like gaining 4 life, yeah.
Ancient of War gets picked up. But again, the big difference here is the inability to really push through this. If he innervates out the Harrison Jones instead, there's Sludge Belcher and then Duplicate on the Illuminator, Frostbolt to freeze this. I think SuperJJ just took over the game.
Yeah, this game's going to be kind of academic for SuperJJ going forward from here. As you said, ooh, even picks up the Iber Thorson, but you got to believe it's going to be Sludge Belcher and Duplicate here, yeah.
And the Frostbolt back behind this. This is a wonderful turn. Going up to 10, freezing the Ancient of War, forcing the Harrison to drop to 1 unless RDU wants to burn this swipe.
I was going to say, yeah, I think you Frostbolt, yeah, Harrison Jones here just to, you know, set up the kill on it next turn.
I think that's totally reasonable as well.
Yeah, SuperJJ sitting up in his chair here. He feels like he may have just, you know, regained control of this game.
Yeah, I mean, this game was looking ugly for a lot of turns there, but just staying calm and keeping composed, that makes a big difference in this game.
Yeah, Illuminator going to do some work here.
Yeah, RDU making sure that to swipe the Illuminator to not duplicate the Sludge Belchers, that's also important.
Yeah, because if he's paid attention, he knows that SuperJJ is out of secrets.
Yep. So this slime going to bite the dust for the sake of a fireball here. But this game is, I mean, this is looking like all SuperJJ. He's facing down a Piloted Shredder, and that's it. Wow. Just in case you needed more. I mean,
yeah, these Illuminators, they don't have any more value going forward. They're just 2/4s. There's no more secrets in SuperJJ's deck.
That is a good point, actually. The fact that he's got both of them in his hand right now, they are just 2/4s. So the Duplicate kind of ineffective in the spot.
But with your opponent with no cards in hand, if you can survive 2/4s, they're going to do just enough.
Yeah, I could totally agree with you on that.
He's just going to grind down this board state as much as possible to get a Ragnaros turn.
You don't actually, Keeper of the Grove is a lethal draw here. Wild Growth is not, but it cycles.
Yeah, Keeper of the Grove, you can silence the Sludge Belcher, use your hero power on the slime, and then just attack SuperJJ.
Oh, still not over. Draw. Does that end the game? Is it? Nope, not quite. He's still got a little bit more punching to do here.
And the thing is, do you charge this or do you taunt it to play around Flame Strike?
I think you jam it. Both Flame Strikes have been used, right?
Oh, okay, he has used both? Okay,
I think so, yeah. You just jam it in there for damage.
I thought he'd used 1 and 2 sheep, but maybe I'm wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, just punches the Illuminator, actually. I'm a little bit surprised by that, considering that there's no secrets left as far as he can tell. I mean, he's seen both duplicates, he's seen 2 ice blocks.
Well, if he knows that both the sheep and both the Flame Strikes are gone, I don't mind this play at all because, you know, what is SuperJJ going to do to punish you?
RDU backing up this board state with, you know, Piloted Shredder and then the Druid of the Claw. You know, suddenly he's back in the game. It looks like he's in the driver's seat now. SuperJJ's used like all of his utility.
Yeah, now SuperJJ does have Fireball Polymorph this turn to, you know, stay alive. And he can leave behind a 4/2, but what does he do after this turn if he takes 4? And then you have to believe he's going to be put down to 4 by RDU from, you know, his hero power. He might have to rely on a Ragnaros shot.
And that's if RDU doesn't draw a threat.
Yeah. And he doesn't have many misses left in his deck.
I mean, Innervate's about the only one. Does he even have an Innervate left?
I think he's drawn both of them as well this game.
Yeah, I think this has to be the play. Just the fact that RDU is drawing a couple of big threats in a row, making a big difference in this one. And still at 29, no fear of dying. Another Wild Growth.
Yeah, well, that's not exactly a miss here because there's maybe 1 card in his deck he can't play now. You could draw Cenarius.
Oh gosh, that would be brutal. Keeper of the Grove instead. So
Not lethal.
not quite, but I think he just charges it in. I think you Moonfire the Dome and hope for the right situation. He's gonna hang on to it though. I mean, moving into fatigue, he's got to feel comfortable about that as well.
Ooh, that might change SuperJJ's plan here. He doesn't have to rely on Ragnaros, but he might still do it just because he might think it's the only way he can win.
Yeah, he's got to start getting damage in, and he's got to be able to take care of the board.
Yeah, because I mean, if he plays Polymorph and shoots the Druid of the Claw here, then he just gets to play Illuminator, and he has no way to gain life or super pressure RDU over the next 2 turns, and RDU's hero power will race him. Just the hero power alone. So he might just think, yeah, I don't mind this play at all. You just kind of have to go for the Ragnaros play.
This isn't even 50-50 to win. That's the brutal spot. Is even if he nails the Druid of the Claw, there's still cards in the RDU stack that kills him, but I can't play. He's got to do something right now.
Is he thinking about Emperoring plus Polymorph here? Is that a play as well?
I think that's pretty darn close to the same thing, too. Just, the fact that you're taking extra damage, you're getting a threat on the board, but it's not quite getting the job done. So this shot will decide whether or not SuperJJ lives this turn or whether or not RDU is going to close this one out. It's got to feel good. But then Savage Roar, Force of Nature, Swipe, another Druid of the Claw.
Shaven Exoramus, great draw from RDU here. He can put SuperJJ to 1 here. SuperJJ, I don't know if he has an out in his deck anymore.
It's got to be a taunt.
Yeah, I think he's out of Sludge Belchers, though.
I guess Antique Healbot would do it as well.
There are Antique Healbots in this deck. There's usually 1, if I remember correct.
So if there's only 1, that means it can't be that one.
Yeah.
That's going to do it. SuperJJ's at 1, has no secrets left. He's going into fatigue next turn. He's going to scoop this game up and move on to game 2. I think that he took a lot of steps in this one that had to get done, but the big difference of this one is that he had to use too much utility after he had gotten control.